This video is brought to you by
Haukland, photographer's clothing.
In this video, let's talk about remote controls. When I started with landscape photography, like maybe 11 years ago or something, remote controls were really a thing. So you needed one to do bracketing for HDRs, you needed one to release your shutter, you needed one for bulb exposure, so you had to get one. They were okay expensive, sometimes you can get a cheap infrared remote control, and depending what camera you are using, you might get yourself also a remote control. But with most modern cameras, you don't actually need a remote control anymore, because what is more effective is when you want to just release the shutter and not shake on the camera, which is the main reason for a remote control for most people. They don't want to press the shutter and then shake on the camera and then have a blurry image. The thing about remote controls is that you always have to have a full battery in it. Sometimes you forget it and then you want to use it and then you cannot use it when you have it for half a year in the backpack and it's just empty. You have to find it, maybe it's somewhere else, and you have to always have it out. A better option with modern cameras is to just use the 2-second self-timer. You just go in your menu, in Drive, and then you set the 2-second self-timer. Then you press the button, it takes 2 seconds, and then the image is done. This is what I use for the last 6 years, without a remote control or anything. What I used the remote for as well was for bulb exposures, and bulb exposures mean that you not only press the button, but you press the button on the remote once and a second time when you want to finish the exposure. So you can say you press it, then the shutter opens, and you press it a second time when it should close again. So you can do exposures above 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 16 minutes I even did, and can take that long of exposure time. But now it is that a lot of cameras have it built inside already, that you can program the camera to whatever shutter speed you need. 30 seconds, no problem at all. Above 30 seconds with some camera models now possible as well. And I think in the future it will be possible with every new camera. If your camera can't do this, you need still a remote control. Best thing is that you check your camera now if you have infrared. When you have infrared, just get yourself a cheap infrared remote control. You only need the option to release the shutter, and most of the stuff the camera can do itself, like bracketing, almost every modern camera can do. If you have a really old camera and want to do bracketing, then you maybe need as well a remote for this, but most of the times it's okay to just have a simple infrared remote. That's my opinion on remote in 2023. Maybe you have a different opinion, but I would not use it anymore because I don't need it anymore. In this lesson we talk about the right tripod for landscape photography. And of course there is no really right or wrong, but I can tell you my personal preferences and what I learned over the past 15 years, what to take care of and what to better avoid. First of all, the tripod always should be steady. This is the most important thing about a tripod, and this is the main reason why you use a tripod. So your tripod should be not super shaky, and the legs should be stiff, should be not too flexible. There are some tripods with very thin legs. Usually the smaller the tripods are, especially those travel tripods or those very cheap carbon fiber tripods. They have just tiny legs, almost like a fishing rod, and they are not that stable when they are all the way pulled out, so I would totally avoid them. Look for a tripod that has thick legs. Very stable legs that you cannot bend. I cannot bend those legs, so they don't swing when I pull the legs all the way out. Then important that the base is very steady, because this is the most fragile point on a tripod. A lot of people take care of nice thick legs, but then they have a very narrow plate here in the middle, and this is also then very shaky. When you have a middle column here, this thing down here, try to avoid to bring it out, because this as well is a very weak point in a tripod. Because imagine you have 3 legs and then you have a stable position here in the middle, and then you bring the column out and then you have 1 leg that is shaking like this in the wind. And you want it to be steady. Again, this is the reason of the tripod, because you want to maybe use a longer shutter speed, maybe have a shutter speed that you need for a longer lens, or maybe you want to film. So the tripod should always be first priority steady. I don't have here any middle column at all because I don't need it, and also it gives you more flexibility when you want to go down all the way to the ground. Let me demonstrate. I just pull those here open and now I can go all the way down to the ground. So I can get a very low perspective, and with a middle column it's much more difficult. You can turn them around, and sometimes that's kind of a marketing gag from manufacturers. Wow, you can turn it around to get a low perspective, but from practice I can tell you nobody's doing it like this, because it's super uncomfortable and takes a lot of time to flip it around, bring it in, bring it down. Maybe some people do it, but I don't like it. So I like it to do it like this. Usually when I have a low perspective, I don't bring all the legs all the way out. I usually only bring maybe one leg out, and that's it. So steady position, most important thing. If it's carbon fiber or not carbon fiber is depending on your budget. Carbon is a bit more expensive, but nowadays they get cheaper and cheaper. This is my personal signature tripod, and because we are manufacturing tripods, I know the prices a little bit, and carbon fiber is just more complicated to fabric. It's more lightweight, but also a little bit more expensive. I personally today would always use a carbon tripod if budget is not that important, because it's just very lightweight. I cannot easily bring it up all the way here. I don't even feel it on my backpack, and this is the main reason why I made the tripod as well carbon fiber. Many years ago I said you don't need carbon fiber, it's too expensive, but really it's just a budget thing. When you can afford it, buy carbon fiber. It's maybe $100 in difference to an aluminium tripod. Aluminium prices rise as well, so maybe even just $70 in the future, but I would always choose, if you can, carbon fiber. Manufacturers build different mounts for their tripod heads, and I here have an AK Swiss mount. And AK Swiss is very common, and I would recommend you to buy a tripod with AK Swiss. There are some others like Manfrotto mount, like others. Nothing against Manfrotto, but when you want to use some accessories, then it's always, or most of the times, AK Swiss and not something special. When you have something special, you always have to buy more expensive stuff or don't have that much of stuff to choose from. So I would choose AK Swiss. Then here the open and close mechanisms, I would choose something to turn, not something to clip, because usually with those clips you get some sand inside, some maybe small stones inside, and then it does not close and open that well. Also, it's not that comfortable to clap it open and close it with a clap. I just do it like this: turn, 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 push, closed, and then I can with one hand close it. And the same way to open it: one, and everything is open, close, close, close. Pretty fast, pretty easy. Regarding height, some people prefer a high tripod, and many people criticized me for making a smaller tripod. But this is my personal signature edition tripod, and I like to photograph in this height. Why? Because most of the times I look for a lower perspective, because a lower perspective looks usually more interesting, because you get the foreground closer to the lens. And usually I'm somewhere around this height here when I photograph. So it's usually low, not high. But some photographers, they prefer to go a little bit higher with the perspective. They always want to photograph like this when they use a tripod. I don't. That's why I did a smaller tripod. Maybe in the future we bring a bigger version of this. Usually when I need a higher standpoint, like from maybe a rail that is there and I want to go over the rail, I just take the tripod and bring it like this over the rail. And this works perfectly fine. This is why we made here 3 big foams that we can attach it to something. Also, like with the rock here, I can easily, when I bring all the stuff in here, look how fast it gets. So when I have a rock, for example, this is also a big advantage when you don't have a middle column. I just bring it like this here, on the rock, steady, and then I adjust here my ball head. And this is how the tripod is then sitting on a rock or on a rail or wherever I want to photograph. It is not important how it looks when you photograph, so one leg can be like this and the other legs like this. It's important that it's steady. Again, most important thing about a tripod. Speaking of the head, I here have a ball head, very lightweight ball head. Some other people prefer some other head. It's totally up to you. I prefer a ball head because it's very fast to use. You only have one screw here, one screw there. Open it, you can use panorama, you can tilt it in every direction you want. And there's also some screw for friction, that it's a little bit stiffer when you open the ball and have a more heavy camera on it. What I would also look for is that you can detach and attach the screws. So when you want to clean something, there's some salt maybe inside, that you can open those screws. Or when one leg gets loose from time to time, this happens with every tripod, then you can just close it here with a special tool, and then it is stiff again and almost brand new. Also, the height when you pack everything was important for me. This is why we designed the tripod like this. It's not super big, it's pretty lightweight, and you can still use it very steady, and still it's very small when you put it on the backpack. So I try to make the perfect compromise between height, when it's all the way out, and all the way in, but still thick and steady. That's what I would say are the most important things about a tripod for landscape photography. Doesn't really matter from what manufacturer, if it's my tripod, if it's from another manufacturer. As long as you are happy, as long as you can work with it, as long as it's steady, totally fine. I wish you a lot of fun with your tripod in landscape photography.
Before we continue with this lesson, let's take a quick look at the sponsor of today's video, who's making this lesson available to you for free.
Hi, I'm Albert Ross, professional landscape photographer, and this is my Haukland Parker Pro jacket. This red color is my personal signature edition. This is a great jacket system for outdoor photography. Why? It has multiple layers, not just this layer. It has a fleece layer, a mid layer, and this outer layer. It's very waterproof, it's windproof, and it's suitable for any kind of weather conditions. Anyone can wear it, but it's a jacket system aimed at photographers, meaning it has some very nice features like this little pocket with my lens cloth attached here. I can quickly take it out for my glasses or my lens or my filters. Then it has really big pockets here for accessories, and it has a lot of nice pockets inside for batteries, smartphone, SD cards. It's very convenient for me as a photographer to use, not only because of the weather, but also because of all these nice features.
Now on sale, discontinued and off-season items up to 60% off at www.haukland.us.
Haukland. Photographer's clothing.
Let's talk about a cheap and effective helper when you photograph with a tripod in landscape photography, or for whatever you will need a tripod in photography. A so-called L-mount. L-mount is that thing here attached to my camera. It looks like a cage, maybe you've heard of a cage for a camera, but it's only L shape, so on the bottom and on one side, usually the left side. And it has the Arca Swiss mount here on the bottom, so it has the shape that it fits here in my tripod on the bottom side, and as well here on that portrait mode side. So I don't have here any tripod plate attached, but only this L mount. And with this here, I can now use it in landscape mode and fix it. I can also use it a little bit more on the side. If I need it, it's much more steady like this than with a normal tripod plate. And you don't have the problem that you may be recognized with your own camera or your own tripod, especially cheaper tripods with small plates, that your camera gets loose when you turn in portrait mode. Sometimes this happens, your camera, you turn it in portrait mode and then it does just swing down and then everything is loose. And this is a mess, I hate it. And with an L bracket or L mount like this, it will not happen because it's steady here on this side and on this side, and it cannot turn. When you don't have an L bracket, extra tip, always pull it over to the right side, because then your screw gets more stiff when it's turned down. This way your screw will unscrew in this direction when it's tilted in portrait mode. But better use an L bracket all the time. So now comes the great part. When I switch to portrait mode, I just slide it in because it's Arca Swiss, and now attached. And I can photograph in portrait mode. So nice. And even if I want to go to landscape and too lazy, I can do it like this. Also possible, but I prefer to shoot like this in portrait mode, and then when it goes to landscape, I just switch over. And such an L bracket is not super expensive. This here I think costs around $20 or something. This is for the A7R5, with which I mainly photograph landscapes, but I have so many different L brackets for different camera models. Usually you have to choose it with your camera body, because it must fit here on the bottom where, for example, your battery is, that you can access it. And here on this side, when you have different plugs you want to access, it should fit as well. And of course, when you have a flip screen, it should go all the way in here. And now with the A7R5, you can also flip it out and just turn it. With some other cameras, it's not that easy possible when you work with an L bracket. I would recommend it, and you can also put here some other stuff in, some other accessories if you need it. And what's neat with this one here, you even have some tool here with it, with a magnet. I just see that the magnet actually was pulled out. I think the glue is not the best. Yeah, maybe you don't have it with a more expensive L bracket, but this is just live. No, it's not live, it's a video, but yeah, I have to fix it later. But it was a nice idea to have it down here. Maybe I can glue it in. Anyway, get yourself an L bracket and have more steady shots and more fun when shooting portrait.
Did you like this free lesson from my landscape photography course for beginners? Then please hit thumbs up and let me know in the comments if you prefer to photograph landscape with or without a tripod so far. The complete 3-hour landscape photography course for beginners is now available on my website www.learnfromben.com. There you can download the full course with 27 lessons and bonus lessons filmed in beautiful Norway immediately. Watch it at your own pace and bring your landscape photography this year onto a new level. Or you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, because over the next 2 years there will be a free lesson from this landscape photography course every month on this channel, with sponsored advertisements. So everyone can access my photography knowledge long-term, regardless of their budget, and learn about the coolest hobby in the world. So subscribe to the channel now. Every Saturday at 9 AM you get a new video about photography. And if you are brand new with photography, also check out my Simply Learn Photography course or Simply Learn Smartphone Photography course. The playlist links with already released lessons you find down in the info box or up here. And if you want to start immediately, go get all my courses, filters and tripods now at www.learnfromben.com. And special offer: if you buy one of my filters or my carbon fiber tripod with a card value of €100 or $1, you get the full course for free on top. How great is that? My name is Benjamin Jaworskyj, photographer and adventurer. Thank you for watching, and I wish you some amazing photos.